Hello, everybody. It's another day and another dollar, and we are going to do some real estate. It is exactly 3 o'clock, and I wanted to start today with a math problem simply because it is one of the most requested math problems, and I want to make sure that everybody is comfortable with it. It is the tax proration. Even if you are comfortable with it, it doesn't hurt to see it again. So what I'm going to do is share my screen, do, and make sure I share my sound because I always forget to do that as well. Boom, and yeah. There we go. I think everybody should be able to now see my screen. Hopefully so. Does not look like it is showing. Well, that's weird. Let's try it again. I know on Zoom you can see it, but I don't think it's coming through to my other thing. Let's try that again. Boop. And let's put this here. Let's try this one more time over here. Share. Huh. That is weird. I do not know why it is not coming through here. Hey, Tanaya. Hey, Caroline. I am trying to figure out why it is not showing. People can't see my screen on Zoom, you know what I'm trying to say? Hmm. Why is it not working? I do not know. Let's keep trying. Oh, I got something in my chat. Let's see. Hello. Will one of you all do me a favor and jump on my YouTube channel and tell me if you can see it or not? Well, I'm going to stop share for a second and I'm going to unplug and then plug it back up because that's weird. And now let's try sharing again. iPhone via cable, share. That's so weird. I don't know. Try refreshing. There we go. I think it's working now. I think it was just me. Let's make sure. Woo, zooming. Let's see if my screen moves. Okay, it's working. Great. So I don't know what that was. That was weird. I don't know if anybody could see it, but let's do this tax proration problem because I know tax prorations become a problem for everybody. And even my California people, my confident Caroline, needs to understand how these tax prorations work. So in general, when you're doing the math on these problems, generally, I don't care what state you're in, it's going to basically give you an annual amount of tax. And then they're going to give you a closing date. So they might say, let's say this is December 1st. And, okay. Or it could be January 1st, the beginning of the month of the year. This could be January 1st, and then this would be December 31st. And I'm just going to use a 365-day year. You've got this annual amount of tax, let's say it's $4,800. And that's going to be due usually by the end of the year. And what we're trying to do is say, okay, well, how much of this needs to go to is the responsibility of the seller? And how much of this thing should be the responsibility of the buyer? That's what a tax proration problem is all about. What needs to be the amount that it is working? And thank you, Morel, for letting me know that it is working. I appreciate you. So when we do this, you're just going to basically say, well, how much is it per day? and then figure out how many days are from here to here and how many days are from here to here. And whoever's going to pay or whoever paid needs to be compensated. So let's just do the problem so it makes sense to you. A property is assessed at $160,000. I'm doing number one, and it's closing February 15th with a tax rate of $1.10 per 100. How will taxes be handled at closing? So step one, we need to figure out how much the taxes are. We know that it's been assessed at $160,000 and it's going to be $1.10 per 100. So I need to know how many 100s are in $160,000. So I'm going to divide by 100, and I could just cross out my zeros. And then I know I have 1600. There are 1,600 100s in $160,000. So that means I'm going to pay this $1.10 1,600 times, and that's going to give me a total tax amount. Now, if I've lost you, just let me know. If it's not making sense, just say something. Even if you're on YouTube, I can see the chat. It should come through. Let me make sure the chat is coming through. Boop, 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 boop. Yay, Caroline. Yay, Tricks. You can see the questions. I don't know. I don't know why it wasn't working before. But total tax amount, where's my calculator? $1.10 times 1,600. That gives me a total tax of $1,760. That's my total tax amount. I'm just going to go ahead and figure out how much that is per day. So I'm going to take this 1,760 and divide it by 365, which, by the way, could be 1,760 over 365. Those mean the same thing. So that's going to give me 482. It's giving me $4.82 per day. So now, just to save on space here, let's redraw our timeline. You got January 1st, you got December 31st, and this closing is happening on February 15th. Right? So how will the taxes be handled at closing? Unless the problem tells you that you are going to be paying the bill now, today, you can assume that this buyer will pay the entire tax bill. So what we need to make this even is see, well, seller, how much should you give the buyer? Seller, you're going to be responsible for all of this 1,760. Or sorry, buyer's going to be responsible for all of that 1,760. And that's not fair because they only stayed in the house from the 15th on. So weird, right? That doesn't seem fair. I'm going to figure out how many days there are between January 1st and February 15th. Well, we know we've got 31 days in January. And then the 15th, I'm going to go ahead and give the 15th to the seller, meaning the seller is responsible for the day of closing, which means the buyer would start on the 16th. But every state handles it a little bit differently, and your exam should tell you what to do. Right? So it's 15 plus 31 days. Thank you, Tricks. So that's 15 plus 41 equals 46 days. This problem did not give us a lot of space. So now we know we got down here 46 days at 482 a day. That's what this seller needs to pay. So $4.82 times 46 days. That's giving me $221.72. $221.72. I know it's messy because they didn't give me a lot of space here, but this would be a seller debit and a buyer credit. I'm sorry, it's so messy. But let me write that out again. So it would be 221.72. It'd be a seller debit and a buyer credit for the same amount. We aren't collecting the buyer's portion today. It's only February 14th. It may not even be due. So let's not worry about it. The biggest thing you can remember about doing any of these problems where you've got a closing disclosure and somebody needs to pay, when you do a closing disclosure, we're only talking about monies that are exchanging hands that day of the closing. That kind of makes sense. Like, I'm not saying the tax bill's not going to be paid in the future, and I'm not saying there weren't other things that were paid previous to the closing. The big thing with the math that you all are doing on the test is, hey, this day of closing, that attorney, that title person, whoever's handling all the paperwork needs to say, for today, who needs to bring what monies? I need to write down every single amount that somebody needs to bring, and I need to make a record of that. And then I've got to say, hey, who do I need to give it to? And I need to make a record of that. Where does this money go? That's how this is going to work. So again, I've had a couple people ask me in an email how to do this. I'm hoping that helps. But if you have questions, you know you can just ask. I don't mind. All right, let's go back to our problems though. Boom. We're on number 23. That would be right here. I give my sister, who's named Kristen, by the way, permission to live in a house I own until the death of her son. I have created. So here's me, and I have a house, and I give this house to my sister, right? This is now going to be my sister's house, but only until the death of her son. That sounds a little dark. Sounds a little dark, but okay, whatever. Your paper is full of T for T-bars. You know what, Tricks? I just saw that. And you know what? There's nothing wrong with a T-bar. I'm going to put some more T-bar videos up, by the way. So if you don't see that in the next week, remind me, Tricks. I want to put some more T-bar videos up on there. Can I make the screen a little bigger? Is this better? Caroline, I don't know. Is that better? Let me know if that's better. So we know that this isn't forever. It's until the death of her son. It is ownership based on a lifetime, which means it's not a leasehold interest because we know that would be renting. And a tenancy for life is not a thing. It's just boo. It's not a thing. It's either an ordinary life estate or a life estate pour attribut. And the answer is, as Freckles has put in there. Oh, if D is here, D, if you are, well, let me finish this and then I'll say that. When I see pour attribut, what I know is that this is a different language.
Doesn't it mean a life of another?
It does. It means for the life of another. And that means that it's going to be for the life of another person. This son, my sister would own it till the death of her son. So for the life, not of my sister, that would be an ordinary life estate for the life of her son, until the death of her son. So that means it would be pour attribut. Yay. Look at confident Caroline again. I love it. Now, if D, you are listening, you asked me about Texas. If you watch this later, and what I could find online, I'm not from Texas, is that your class certificate doesn't expire, but once you apply, you have 1 year. 1 year to the date. So you have 1 year. So you would have like, what is today? Today is 11/14. You'd have from 11/14/2025 to 11/14/2026. 13. Let's make that more legible. 2026. That's everything I could find, but I would want you to call your commission to make sure, right? You have it for a year from when you applied, from what I could tell. If anybody listening, though, is also in Texas and I'm incorrect, let me know. All right, 24. Littoral rights for properties abutting the ocean give ownership. So we got this word littoral. Littoral rights for properties abutting the ocean, which we know lakes and oceans are littoral. If it was a river or a stream, it would be riparian, right? They give ownership, is it A, to the mean high water mark, B, to a point 200 feet out from the shore, C, to the state ownership line, or D, to nothing, because littoral rights have to do with non-navigable rivers. Well, I just said if it was a river, we'd be talking about riparian. Did I spell that right? Riparian rights. So this is not the answer. So do you own to the state ownership line, to a point 200 feet out from the shore, or to the mean high watermark? Anybody got a clue? And do we know what it means? Trick said the paper looking at the teacher looking at your paper thinking you're very religious. Those aren't crosses, those are T-bars. I actually, Trix, taught my mom a T-bar yesterday. She thought it was quite interesting. She used to teach first grade and kindergarten, so she was like, oh, that's actually kind of cool. Anybody got an answer? Well, let's walk through it. The answer is A, to the mean high water mark. That is a fancy way of saying to the high tide mark, to like the average high tide mark. Well, let's say you've got water and then you've got land, right? Let's even change this. This is the water. We know this could be low tide. And then we could know that dink, this might be where high tide comes in. That makes sense? That could be where high tide comes in. And of course, you would have your house over here. What we're saying is, you know what? You're going to basically own to the average high tide mark. Like where does high tide basically begin and end? You know, you've gone to the beach and you see where the seaweed and the seas foam and all that yucky dead sea. It really isn't the ocean nothing but dead fish soup. And it's poop. It's dead fish sea poop. Okay. I'll mess with the ocean. There are all sorts of things down there that want to kill you. And we aren't meant for the ocean. We are not the apex predator in the ocean. So I think we should just stay out of it. But we would own to the basic high tide mark. And then this space in between here, between high tide and low tide, we call this the foreshore. So that's Foreshore. Foreshore. And that is owned generally by the public, which means if you are helping somebody buy a house and it's bordering a lake, a large lake like the Great Lakes, which are huge, and or the ocean, you got to tell them I don't care what anybody says, this is not a private beach. Somebody could walk in that foreshore. You can't stop them. So there you go. This is not 200 feet from a point. It's not to the state ownership line. It's generally going to be to your high tide mark. And very good, Miss Confident Caroline. I see you got that right. You got it right. You got it right. Hey, you got it right. Do a little dance. Do a little dance. What happens if a property touches the water? Well, tell me Trix, I know it's going to be a little hard to type it out, but generally, if we're talking about property touching the water, let's see what we got going on here. What's this? What? Nope. Oh, I see. I see what it did. I see, said the blind man. So we could have some options here. Generally, if you have a house, let's make some water. Yes, that's water. Can't you tell it's water? And let's say you have some land, right? Usually you're going to be 9 times out of 10. If this is the house, there's going to be some land. I mean, there has to be some land between here and here. Now, you can go to a beach where sometimes the house would be on pillars like this, for high tide, low tide, and that would be a call an attorney question. Now, if you have a house or a piece of land, and let's say this is a river, but we're going to look at the house from up top. So, like, we're looking down on the house. So maybe this is the driveway, and then this is the house, and then there's a river. Maybe you got some trees going. Okay, that's a terrible tree. That looks like a person. Okay, that's enough of that. But if that was the driveway, and like this is the road, boop. See what I mean by we're going to kind of go an aerial here? If you had a stream going through your land, like it was running through your land, that's all yours. But if the stream, say this is the road, right? And let's say you have a house here, and there's a driveway, and there's a house here, and there's a driveway. And let's say this stream was coming like right here. Like this is the stream. You can see your neighbor. That's your stream. Then you would own to the middle. You would own to the middle. If it's non-navigable, if you can't put a boat on it. But if it could be traveled, then you would own to the water's edge. So this would be our riparian rights. This would be if it's a river or stream, this would be if it's on your property, you would, it's just yours if it's non-navigable. Remember, if it's navigable, if it's a river, that's owned by the public, right? Now, this stilts is a CYA, call your attorney, but it would be, both of these would be littoral or littoral. So yes, you said the pillars, awesome. Does that make sense to everybody? That's actually a really good question, Trix. I mean, that is one of those deals where you would have to call an attorney. In fact, if you're selling if anybody who's got a coastline and you've got houses and you've got docks or piers or houses there, how you call an attorney immediately. That's the answer. All right. But great question. Number 25. Jewelry cases in a jewelry store are an example of. Jewelry cases in a jewelry store are an example of A, fixtures, B, personal property, C, trade fixtures, or D, real estate. All right, Mariel in there quick, she said A. We got one for A. Jewelry cases in a jewelry store are an example. You
A.
said the public were protesting and the court honored the demolition. Yeah, that sounds about right, Trix, depending on what it is, right? I got a C, and then Caroline, confident Caroline, I heard an A. So I got an A and I got a C for Freckles. Trix, what are you thinking? Jewelry cases in a jewelry store. Now I'm gonna say womp womp. They need to tell me some more. Like, are those cases like bolted in? I'm assuming they want me to think since it's a jewelry store and they don't want thieves, those cases are bolted to the actual property. Oh, and Trix says C2. So we are 2, 2, 2. What if I told you all It matters that this is a store. Two of you are right and two of you are incorrect. It's a store. So what would that? It would be, there you go, Caroline. You're right. It's C. It is a trade fixture. And you know that you can take your fixtures if you're renting commercial property, and have like a store or restaurant or something. When you're renting commercial property and then you install a fixture you need for the business, you can take it with you. Generally, if it's just a regular old plain, oh, I shouldn't do that. A regular old plain fixture, we mean like houses. And generally, in a house, if it's attached to the property, then it's going to go. When you sell the property, it's going to go with the property. Or as one of you all said, that if you flip the house over and you were to shake it, chattel rattles, which makes me happy. Chattel rattles. I love it. All right. Next. 26. A fixture, so we're thinking houses, but let's see what our answer choices are. A fixture is always assumed to accompany a property that is sold. B is always assumed to belong to the seller and may be removed. C is usually sold separately with a bill of sale. Or D is not considered real estate. Number 26. Yep, Tricks. I see y'all. I see you, Tricks. All right. Okay, Maria, I'm going to come back to that in a moment. I see what you said in the chat. Let's go with number 26, and I'll rewind to 27. Okay, Freckles said A. Tanaya Hadir says A. Caroline says A. And guess what? You all are right. It is going to be considered personal or real property. Remember our definition. You have land, you have real estate, you have real property. Land is, of course, the surface of the earth, and everything above and everything below. I mean, the airspace, and then your ground down here. In theory, to the middle of the earth, right? And then if it's natural, if there's like a tree, that would be land. But the minute you add anything that is permanently attached, like a house, anything that's permanently attached, then that would be real estate. That would be real estate. And then what you would have is real property, which includes the bundle of rights. So a fixture is a piece of personal property that's been permanently attached to the real property. So it's going to go with, it runs with that real property. It's now part of that real property because it's permanently attached. So we're going to assume that it is an encumbrance. It's going to run with it. All right. Now, to rewind back to 25, one of the things that you said, Maril, is so in this case, it is not attached to the store. That would be incorrect. If it's in a commercial setting, like retail setting, even though it's a fixture, so it is permanently attached, the lessee can take it with them. And this is a really important point. I want to make sure you understand that because that is commonly tested. This is one of those commonly tested big fat stars. You make sure you understand that one. 27. In what way does a PUD, a planned unit development, urban development, whatever. What way does a PUD generally differ from a condominium? Condos have homeowners associations, PUDs do not. Condos have monthly common charges, PUDs do not. Condominium owners own the airspace occupied by their unit and the land under and around their units as tenants in common. PUD owners own the land under and around their units individually. Condo owners own shares in a corporation, and PUD or owners own the real estate. Right? What are we thinking? It's a hard one. No problem, Mariel. I want to make sure you understand. That's what we are here for. This is a hard one, and you might be better off if we start thinking, okay, which one is wrong? What can
I
we
think
eliminate?
A is wrong.
Condominium have homeowner associations, and PUDs do not. Condos do have homeowners associations, but I don't really like this question. Let me tell you why I don't like this question. First, let me walk through it. I would say D is wrong. Condo owners own shares in a corporation. Well, we know that would be a co-op. Condominiums have monthly charges. Yes. PUDs do not. So it depends on the type of PUD. I've seen PUDs that have condos in them. So that makes it a not really 100% true. I mean, PUDs can have charges. But if you just have a house, sometimes there is no extra charge for the PUD. I mean, but I think more than likely you would. Let's see. Condominium owners own the airspace occupied by their unit and the land under their individual as the and the land under around their units as tenants in common. True. PUD owners own the land under and around their units individually. Yeah, if it's a PUD and it's full of houses or townhomes, but what if it's a condo and a PUD? I don't think it gave us enough answers, but I do think I feel more strongly about these PUDs. PUDs can have monthly charges. I'm going to go with C. So that is my rationale. I don't know if my rationale is right until I check it, but
That was my
yes,
gut feeling is C.
Freckles, you asked what a PUD is. So it's planned urban development. And I think the best way to show this to you is to have a picture and let's see. The slides. Here we go. Now, unit, urban, whichever. So can you see this picture? Planned urban development plan, unit development. What this means is that from the beginning, like you could have a condo, you can have a subdivision, but a PUD is where a developer gets a really large, generally a really large piece of property, and they come in and they plan. There's going to be different types of ownership. So you see how there are these different colors. There's going to be some retail and restaurant. There's going to be some office. There's going to be apartments. There's going to be townhomes. There's going to be single family. They've got parks, right? The developer is saying, hey, from the very beginning, before we even break ground, we have a plan. That is the key word here, a plan. I know it's hard to read, but a plan to say, look, even if you're the very first house, you have this yellow, even if you're house number one there, you would know, hey, towards the beginning of the or the front of this community, to this major road, Northeast 179th Street, great. There's going to be retail and restaurants. It may not be there now, but there will be. A PUD is all about the plan. They have a plan. This is what it's going to look like. If it's just a regular subdivision, you don't know. This phase three could possibly be more houses. It could possibly be retail. It could possibly be a park. We don't know. It just depends. Makes sense? Hopefully so. And I don't know why that closed on me, but maybe it was me. Where'd it go? PUD. But yeah, there you go. Hopefully that makes sense. planned unit development. You know, I learned it earlier as planned urban development, and that's never gotten out of my head. But PUD, I know it's both. So that's good. Hopefully that makes sense. Now we can go back to our question. So you can see where, I mean, I know of PUDs with condos. So when you say it's a PUD owner, I think it's C. I think that with this PUDs do not. I, I think that's just too weird because you can. If you have like a park, then there could be a monthly fee just for the park. So I think it's probably safe to assume you're going to have some type of PUD fees, even if they're only $100 a year. So I'm going to go with C. Let me see if it's the right answer. Mm. What number are we on? 27. Yep, C. Both PUDs and condominiums generally have homeowner associations and monthly common charges. There we go. So this is a good lesson for you all as well when you start selling houses. There are some neighborhoods with two HOAs. So if you bought a home in this PUD, you might have your, like within a PUD, they can be so large that there could be different neighborhoods in a PUD. So you might have three different HOAs. You would have to pay HOA dues, plus you'd have fees for being in the PUD. Sometimes there are more than one HOA. And then sometimes, even in a subdivision, you might have like the general subdivision, and then there's additional fees for like if you want to use the pool, but they're required. Like, so just make sure you know that. Good. I'm glad I could teach you something, Tricks. That's what I try. I strive. All right. 28. Three people each buy pieces of property next to each other for farm use. As a matter of efficiency, they hire one person to manage the farm as a single unit, even though the properties are owned separately. How is the property owned? So you got three people each buy property next to each other for farm use. As a matter of efficiency, they hire one person to manage the farm. They're managing it, the farm is one single unit, even though the properties are owned separately. Well, that's the key right there. If they're owned separately, then up, Confident Caroline's got it. It is a tenancy and severalty. Ownership by one person. You may have a manager, but only one person owns each piece of land. Tenancy but in severalty. All right, 29. A proprietary lease is a unique characteristic of what form of ownership? A proprietary lease is a unique characteristic of what form of ownership? A, condominium. B, cooperative. C, timeshare. Or D, PUD. All right, Caroline is giving me an A for 29. Anybody else?
You know what? I think I'm going to change my answer to timeshare.
Okay, we're changing that to timeshare. Anybody? $29. Okay, Morel, you're saying C for 29. Okay, I got you. Anybody in the Zoom have a thought? B, we got one B. We had two C's. And survey says our answer is actually B, a co-op. Remember, a condo is where you own the airspace. And severalty. And then you have tenants in common for the shared space. A timeshare means you get the right to stay there for a certain amount of time, for a certain amount of days. Think like vacation homes, right? Like annual vacation rights, put it that way. We just talked about what a PUD was. A co-op is when a corporation owns the apartment building. Remember, an apartment is just an apartment could be a co-op, it could be a condo, I mean, whatever. It's just saying you have your, you've got your unit and you're sharing your common areas. Apartment, the word usually signifies somebody is renting. Co-op signifies that somebody has bought stock in the corporation that owns the apartment. A condo, you're just buying the apartment. So a condo and an apartment are the same thing. It's just one says, "Oh, I've got an apartment, I'm renting. Oh, I have a condo, I own that unit." Corporation, they own the apartment building, and then you buy stock, and that stock gives you the right to live there via a proprietary lease. Right? So it's not the timeshare, it is the co-op. Hopefully that makes sense. And I will say there are a lot of places where co-ops are rare, but if you were in New York City or some of the like more eastern cities, they happen a lot. 30. A corporation usually owns property in joint tenancy, tenancy by the entirety, tenancy by, oh, sorry, joint tenancy, tenancy in common is B, tenancy by the entirety is C, or tenancy in severalty. What are you thinking? Good. I'm glad that makes sense, Miss Caroline. What are we thinking for this one? It's a corporation. It owns property as joint tenants, tenants in common, tenants by the entirety, or tenancy in severalty. Well, tenancy by the entirety means marriage. I don't think a corporation can get married, which is weird. If corporations are considered individuals, don't individuals have the right to get married? I mean, can two corporations marry each other and share the same benefits, like lower? I don't know. I'm just going off top of it. Okay, we got a B, tenancy in common. I got a B. One brave soul said B. I'm bringing home a baby, bumblebee. Won't my mama be so proud of me? Right? So it's not joint tenancy. And our answer is actually tenancy and severalty. Why? Because of what I just said. A corporation is considered an individual. You have like a corporate tax ID number. It is taxed like an individual. So the corporation owns the property. It's ownership, or basically ownership and severalty. It's owned by one person. In this case, the person is the entity of the corporation. There you go. All right. Liability that is limited to the investment does not apply to. Liability that is limited to the investment does not apply to partners in a general partnership, B, a corporation's shareholders, C, limited partners in a limited partnership, or D, limited liability corporations. Well, we're asking liability, and which of these does the liability that can be up to the investment amount? That's not how this would work. When we say, hey, look, you're only liable for up to your investment amount, which one of these is that not true? You would own more than that. You would owe and possibly be liable for more than that. Does that make sense? All right. Trix, you said D. What do we have over here, Caroline? Is that a B for this one? Or is that 30? I don't remember. I don't remember. Do you remember the time when we fell in love? Do we remember the time? I'm actually making a slide on this right now, right? I'm making a slide in this right now. And so the answer I know is partners in a general partnership. Because if you are a partner and it's a general partnership, both people, I'm just saying two because I'm saying partnership, but it could be four people. Everybody is jointly, basically equally liable. Everybody is equally liable in a partnership. That's why you do the partnership. So you're not the only person that would take a hit, right? Now, if you have a corporation and well, somebody is a shareholder in a corporation. Look, I'm a part owner in Apple, y'all. If something goes wrong with Apple and they lose all their money, the most I could lose would be my stock, the value of my stock in Apple. I cannot be, you can't say, well, Candace, you are a stockholder in Apple, you lose money too. Nope, that doesn't work. You've got the limited partners in a limited partnership. Limited partner in a limited partnership. Now, I know that you can have, well, I think you can have an LLC and an LLC limited liability company where you are limited to basically your investment. So I I get that. Like if it's a limited liability corporation, then you're only up to your total amount. But this limited partner in a limited partnership, I know that it's this. I know that it's this. So I'm going to make it the answer. But I thought, mm, mm, I got to look up and more about this limited partnership. Give me a second. I know the answer's A. But you know what? I'm going to work on this. I'm going to have this little flow chart finished for you all. And I've been working on videos, limit liability for a limited partnership. And I'm going to make sure. I want to triple check that one, but I do know the answer for that one is A. Like that's just the whole point of a partnership. We're sharing responsibility and liability. There is no limit. You could lose everything. So you asked, Freckles, is condominium ownership a form of tenancy in common? So condominium ownership is a conglomerate. It's two things. You have tenancy in common for the common areas, and then you would have tenancy and severalty for your unit. So you alone owe your unit, but for all the common areas and the land underneath, your tenants in common. So it's both. That makes sense. You were thinking, see, but this is confusing. I know, right? Let me just do a quick. Did I save that? Wait, I actually have it up here. LP. Give me a moment. Yeah, I didn't think I was crazy. I'm looking at AI overview because I had done a search for what's the difference between a limited partnership, a limited liability partnership, and an LLC. GP limited partnership and an LLP, limited liability, maybe limited liability partnership and an LP are both partnerships with limited liability for some owners. That's what it says. So that's why I think that's weird. I'm going to try to find out more information because it says a partnership with at least one general partner, LP, and at least one limited partner. General partners have unlimited liability, while limited partners have limited liability to their investment. So yeah, the answer, I'm not crazy, it would be A or C. Let me see what they say here. I think they're just wrong. I'm looking at Google. I'm looking at it. I'm looking at it, and it says limited partnership and limited liability partnership. Mhm. Limited partnership. Okay. Crazy I may be, but I'm not wrong. But I'm not wrong. And sometimes that's all that matters. All right, 32. 32. The type of co-ownership that allows an owner's property to be left to her heirs is the type of co-ownership that allows an owner's property to be left to their heirs is, well, we got tenancy by the entirety, tenancy in severalty, tenancy in common, or joint tenancy. Well, we know we can eliminate joint tenancy because we know that comes with the right of survivorship. And that means you cannot will it to any, you can't go to any, you can't send it to anybody else. It goes to the remaining owners. It can't be tenancy and severalty because that's not co-ownership. Co means more than one person. The type of ownership that allows a owner's property to be left to their heirs. I'm going to say tenancy in common. You might say, well, Candace, if it's tenants by the entirety, wouldn't it be left to their spouse? Yes, but that's not what we mean. Like an heir doesn't have to be a relative. When I see the word heir, I think, oh, I can leave it to anybody, not just. If I have to leave it to my surviving spouse, then that was the right of survivorship. That's not, oh, it's my heir. That makes sense? So yes, it is C, tenancy in common. All right. You want to build, you got it half right. You were thinking C, but this is confusing. It is. I think these questions do make us think, and they're written in a way that kind of keeps us on our toes. And I like that. You want to build your house 10 feet closer to the road than the zoning ordinance permits. You will like try. Rewind that. Try that again. You want to build your house 10 feet closer to the road than the zoning ordinance permits. You will likely try to get A, a zoning ordinance change, B, a variance, C, a deed restriction amendment, or D, an infrastructure change. What are you thinking? All right, Caroline's saying B. I like it. Freckles, okay, you're saying B. Trix is saying, oh, Freckles, you said C. And Trix, you said B, a variance. And I love it. I love it. I love it. Love it. Love it. Yes, our answer is B. I'm like those bad people on TikTok. One thing about me, you know how they do that and they kind of tell a story and they're awful on their rapping? That would be me. As why we do not rap, because I would look awful, awful, just awful. But yes, it's a variance. Remember, in a variance, you're going to have to prove that there's a hardship caused by this zoning ordinance, and will they let you do something slightly different? You're asking for permission to do something slightly different because of this hardship, right? You wouldn't ask for the whole zoning ordinance to change. They're not going to change a whole rule just because one person has a problem. And to change the infrastructure would be to change like the roads, the electrical, like all the like the building blocks of the neighborhood. It's not going to work. And since it's not a deed restriction, remember a deed restriction is a private land use control. Ah, it's a private land use control, and zoning ordinances are public land use controls. Make sense? I see your Tricks dancing. I need to find that beat that's on that TikTok. Do y'all know what I'm talking about? Things. One thing about me. Oh God, I'm gonna find it and I'm gonna do a bad version of it. Right? So yes, our answer is B. Our answer is B. All right. Number 34. Yep, we'll finish the ones on the page. You own a factory that has been in your family for 100 years. Houses have sprung up all around it, and the zoning is now residential. How would your factory most likely be classified? You own a factory that has been in your family for 100 years. Houses have sprung up all around it, and the zoning is now residential. How would your factory most likely be classified? A, temporary use. B, transitional use. C, interim use. Or D, non-conforming use. What?
Non-conforming use.
Hey, there's my confident Caroline, and she is right on it. Boom, non-conforming use. That's when we know something has been grandfathered in. Yay! Grandfathered in. I know everybody doesn't like that term, but D is for do a little dance, do a little dance, do a little dance, do a little dance. Hey, 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 hey. So we love it. Yay. I mean, the other ones just aren't even, yeah. I don't consider those real estate terms. 35. The drawing showing an entire subdivision and the lots it is being divided into is most properly called. So it's got the lots. You're showing the entire subdivision and the lots. Is it a survey map, a plat map, a filed map, or a meets and bounds map? What are we thinking? What are we thinking? Now I've got that TikTok song. While I'm waiting for you all to answer, I got that TikTok song. All right. Trick says a survey map. Where's my TikTok? Waiting for y'all to answer. And let's see. One thing about me. Sounds. Yep, there it is. Huh. I would play it for you, but I don't want to give it. I'm gonna find the music. I am. I am. So Trick says A. Nobody else? Well, I'll tell y'all the answer here, guys, is B. Plat map. It is B. Plat map. Why? For only one reason. Because literally, the definition of plat map is a subdivision map. A plat map is a subdivision map. It's where you get to see all of the properties and all of the lots in it. In fact, if I were to actually come here and go here and put in, let's see. Where is plat? Boop, boop, boop. This is a plat map. This is a literal recorded plat map from North Carolina. You all can see final plat sheet 1 of 2, 3 metal subdivision. And you can see all the lot numbers here. And you can see that it's been recorded. I know it's faded, but you can see it's been recorded. This is a plat. A plat is a subdivision map. A survey looks like this. This is a real survey that one of my clients took at some point. I mean, you all can see, I literally have been in business this long. Look at that, from 2007, and I wasn't even new. At that point, I've been doing it for what, 5 years? So this is an old plat map. I took their names off so y'all wouldn't know who it was. I don't even know if they still own it. But this is the meets and bounds description of one particular property, and then you get to see like where the structures are. So you see, oh, that's not what I meant to do. Boop. There's the structure, there's the driveway. If there are any kind of encroachments, it would show surveys generally of one property, and then you've got your plat map, which is going to be a whole subdivision. So there you go. All right, so 35 is B. Is B. Is B. All right, 36, our last one for the day. A mortgage is most accurately described as what type of lien? A mortgage is most accurately described as what type of lien? So in my head, before I even look at the answer choices, because I know it can get confusing, I would say to myself, okay, where was that mortgage? Where was it? And I literally in my head would be thinking about this. Okay, not that. That's not what I was thinking of. I literally be in my head thinking about everything I didn't need to have pulled up. Okay, not this, not that, not that. I didn't even know that was up. Okay, here. Nope, yeah. Oh, y'all, some days it's just harder than others. Remember this? Remember this chart? Let's clear it. So now, go away, go away. I know for liens, we're right here, liens. We've got general liens and we've got specific liens. And we know if it's a mortgage, it is a type of specific lien. So I know my answer has to be specific. It's not going to be general. And just knowing that means that I can say, well, I know it's not general. I mean, I know it's not general, so that takes this one off. It takes that one off. I know it's a specific lien. The difference now is it voluntary or is it involuntary? Well, involuntary means you didn't ask for it. This is going to be more about, hey, there's a lien because like taxes. Nobody asked to be taxed. It's just part of the law. Voluntary is where you go sign up for it. So what we mean by that is, yeah, it's going to be voluntary and specific because nobody's going to force you to get a mortgage. It's a voluntary lien. It's a voluntary lien on the property. So Caroline, it wouldn't be involuntary because you choose. Nobody forces you to put this lien on your property. You choose to borrow money knowing they will put a lien on your property, but they're not going to. Now, taxes, whether you want it or not, there will be a tax lien. Does that make sense? So it can be voluntary. So liens can be voluntary or involuntary. That's a L. And they could either be what's the word? Not judicial, equitable, or statutory, meaning there's a law. So a statutory loan is a lien is always going to be involuntary. There's a statute, some law that says you are going to be taxed. But you didn't choose it, it's involuntary. And it's statutory because there's a law. Equitable would be if there's like a judgment lien against you. You didn't ask, you don't pay your credit card, you owe them $40,000. You didn't ask for a lien to be put on you. They're going to put that on you. Does that make sense? And so again, if we're looking at this, those are types of easements. Did I have this on here? I think maybe I don't. Is this something that's missing? Voluntary versus involuntary. I can't believe I don't have this on there. I'll need to work on that. Co-ops, interests, future. Yeah, I need to add this. Voluntary versus involuntary. This is voluntary versus involuntary ownership and or transfer, I should say. But yeah, I actually don't have it on there. It's just in my slides. So because I don't have it on there, let's see if I can give you a picture in my slides. These are the slides I teach with. Involuntary. Boop. Okay. Helps if I can spell. Voluntary. Oh, I'm in the wrong one. I'm like, what? I'm gonna pull it together, y'all. I am. I do want to give you all something to look at just in case you need it. Now let's try this. Voluntary. There we go. Do. So liens can either, and if this will help you, they can either be voluntary or involuntary. And they could either be statutory from a statute, or they could be equitable. You owed it. You owe the money, and now they're putting a lien against you, right? So if I were to look at this mortgage lien is voluntary. A mechanic's lien, involuntary. Real property lien, involuntary. Uh, involuntary. I mean, you could ask somebody to put a lien on your house, right? And this is going to be statutory because there's a law, and this is statutory, and this would be equitable. Come on, start writing. And then mechanic's lien would be equitable. Does that help? I'm hoping so. All right, guys. Oh, it's 4:06. Sorry, I kept you too long, but hopefully all the PDF that you show us. Okay, so let me kind of explain the difference. This is the cheat sheet. These are it's just a cheat sheet that I have. When you see this, these are the slides I use for my class, and a lot of North Carolina stuff is in there. But if you have the slides from my crash course, some of that will be in there. Not everything, because the crash course, I only have 4 hours. My slides, if you can see, there's 3 pages or 2 slides per page. And total, we got 48, let's even say 47 pages. So 47 times 2. Is that right? No, there's more than that. That can't be page 47. I've got more than 100 slides. Where's my math messing up here? 46, 47, 44, 43. This cannot be all my slides. Oh, that's because I'm losing my mind. That's of that section. I have a total, I don't know if you all can't see it, but there's a total of, scroll down, 594 pages. Like, this is page 43 of this section. Like, this is my license law review section. And if I were to scroll some more, then you would see there's page 19, there's page, 14. And I could scroll. I mean, there's 594 pages. So 594 times 2, 1,188 pages of slides. So this big long thing you're looking at here, I wouldn't say it's not good for California. There'd be a lot of stuff in there that you might not need. So the stuff about estates would be fine. The stuff about construction would be fine. The stuff about like finance and stuff like that would be fine. You might be a little confused on agency, but if you took my crash courses I used to do, you should have the financing slides, the appraisal slides, the contract slides. Those should all be good. Oh, you didn't. Email me, Maril, and we'll see what we can work out for you. So, all right, let me go. I will talk to y'all later, and we will figure something out. If you're not going to be good, at least don't get caught being bad, guys. That's all I gotta say, and I will see you next time.
Thank you,
Bye.
Candace.
You're
Bye.
welcome, Miss Caroline. Bye.